Productions on the track.
Hey, what's going on, everybody? This is Case Study QB, and I am in the Progressive War Room talking strategy with the one and only Queen. Afeni is in the building. I'm so glad to have you. Oh man,
Thank you so much for having me. I'm really excited to be here.
This is gonna be a fun chat. We're gonna talk a lot about different things, and just to let y'all know, Afeni is just not any person. She is an activist. She's a campaign organizer. She's working with the Michaela Wilkes campaign right now, and she's an abolitionist. And what else? A mutual aid enthusiast. Man, this is going to be a great conversation. What's up, Afeni?
Nothing much. Today it's really early. I don't usually do shows early in the morning, so if my brain does not seem all the way here, it's because I haven't woken up fully. I'm not awake until 12 until 12 noon.
Nah,
So
no worries, no worries. So let's get right into it. I want to ask you about your story. You told me, I was happy to hear that this is your second year anniversary was yesterday, and you decided to spend the day after with me. Awesome, I'll take it. And yeah, tell us about your activism, how you got into it, and then we're going to talk about how did you get into joining the Michaela Wilkes campaign. But let's first talk about how did you get into activism.
absolutely. So I've told people before, I was a college student and a party promoter, and just the general unaffected Black woman out here living my best life before George Floyd happened. When George Floyd was murdered, I kind of avoided the video just because I had seen plenty of other Black people dying on video before that. So I, just didn't really want to ingest even more trauma. But I finally saw it on Saturday, May 30th of 2020. I watched it all the way through when I was working at AT&T, sitting at my little desk. And I just remember like having this like really deep feeling of like grief and sadness and anger. And I didn't really know what to do with that energy other than go and protest. I had never protested before, but I had saw that there were protests in DC the day before on the 29th of May. So I was like, okay, I'm just going to go out here, see what it's hitting for, basically. And I went out and I don't know, somebody had handed me a megaphone and I got put on national television, and I've been here ever since.
And a star was born. And yeah, so how did you go from being an activist also to being now to joining the Michaela Wilkes campaign?
Absolutely. So, just kind of continuing from where the story was, is in the beginning, I was doing more like advocacy and activism work, not really getting deep into the weeds of organizing. And then I got a job with Working Families Party, and I got more like organizing experience, and also like more of an understanding of like what organizers do. And I lost that job because me and my supervisor did not get along very well. And I was like unemployed for 2 months. And I was telling everybody, like, I was going to all these protests. Go ahead.
Are you talking about the job with the Working Families Party?
Yeah. My job with the Working Families Party, that shit was horrible.
I'm gonna put a pin on that. We're gonna come back to that, but continue.
Yeah, that shit was the worst. But anyway, yeah, I was like, just that 2 months I was unemployed. I was just working. Like, I was doing mutual aid. I was going to protests, like any organizing circles that I could be in, like any direct action I could help plan. That's really what I was focusing on. And I was in on all those spaces. I was telling people like, hey, if you hear about a job, I really need a job right now. I really want to organize. Like, this is what I'm passionate about. And I was literally about to just give up trying to find an organizing job. And I was going to go back to like doing retail, because that was what I was doing before. before I was doing activism, and Dash, the campaign manager of Michaela's campaign, called me, and he was like, yeah, like, I would love for you to interview for this job. And I had never had a field director job, let alone any type of campaign job at all. So I wasn't really sure if I was going to be good at it, but I tried anyway, and I got the job. And it's been a really rewarding experience, and I've learned a lot about not only how to be a good organizer, but also the ins and outs of what these campaigns look like, and how the establishment really does go out of their way to make sure they disenfranchise anybody that tries to run against any incumbent ever. Wow. Some of the things that I've seen just really do not feel or seem legal. Like, it's just,
yeah.
I just don't really understand how the Democratic Party can swear up and down that they're the party of democracy and of making sure that voting rights and all that other shit, when it comes down to, democracy actually happening, and some of these incumbents, losing their seats because democracy is happening, they decide that they're going to spend millions of dollars. They decide that they're going to lie and smear. They decide that they're going to challenge the maps and push back the election dates and all different types of things that they can do to make sure that any, anti-establishment candidate that runs is just, it's nothing but an uphill battle. But, we're fighting back against all of that right now with our campaign. And, people say what they want about me working for a congressional candidate. I mean, I'm an organizer. I'm going to organize. If Michaela doesn't win, I'll probably go back to being a community organizer. If she wins, if she doesn't win, I'm going to be an organizer regardless. And this experience for me has been really valuable because it's showed me the importance of relational organizing, especially like that door-to-door, talking to voters, meeting people where they're at, and really getting a real understanding of where people are, like, mentally and emotionally, dealing with this political system, has been really, really important and really valuable to me as an organizer. So, I mean, I would do it again and again and again. I have no regrets. And
so, what's your day-to-day work with the campaign? So you're the your official title is like the community organizer for Michaela Works?
So I'm the field director. So
field director, okay. So basically
yeah,
like yeah, but that's the official title. Go ahead.
Yeah, I just make sure, like, I coordinate the canvases and I coordinate, like, what local politicians, local campaigns we're going to work with. Just communicating with small businesses, figuring out how we're going to do voter outreach, and like what the most effective mode of voter outreach is for us. The demographics of voters that we're targeting, whether we're targeting people that don't usually vote or we're targeting people that are high propensity voters. That's basically what I do. Our campaign manager, Dash, he makes sure that we have the funds to win the campaign, and I make sure that we have the votes to win the election.
So do you work directly with the volunteers as well?
Yeah.
Or is there a volunteer coordinator? Like, is that a whole nother job?
No, we're a very small staff because we're a very small grassroots campaign. So I do all of that. Like, me and Dash kind of split it, like the volunteer coordination part, like, he does his half, I do my half. Just because, we are, like I said, a smaller campaign. We don't take any corporate money at all. We don't take any super PAC money at all. And honestly, super PACs aren't really checking for us because of who we're running against. So even if we were seeking that money, those people aren't interested in our campaign whatsoever. I'm really proud of the work that we're doing because we've stayed sustainable, even though people thought that we weren't going to be able to do so.
Awesome.
So it's been really rewarding.
Awesome. So I have a whole bunch of questions, but I definitely want to go on a fly because you brought up the Working Families Party, right? And I want to bring up a tweet that Amani Oakley, who is running in New Jersey, it's very special to my heart because she was the first person to do the People's Gauntlet. And we had an issue with the New Jersey version of the Working Families Party. So this is what happened right here. Let me bring it up. Amani Oakley, she put disappointed but not surprised. New Jersey Working Family Party has been playing both sides for years now, but our fight was never about loyalty to an org. It's about the people. And on June 7th, the people will win. And basically, so she has a letter. I'm not going to read the whole letter, but this is basically about how the working family said they just announced that they decided to endorse Donald Payne Jr. in the New Jersey 10 primary. And that's the person, that's the establishment candidate while she's running as the progressive leftist candidate in the same New Jersey 10. The Working Families Party, which is supposed to be a progressive organization, did not endorse the progressive candidate, which is starting to become like a running theme as of late. When the progressive caucus did not endorse Nina Turner, it's like, what's going on? Afeni, come on, help me out.
So, I asked everybody and their mother. So I worked for the Working Families Party as a fellow. So I was actually doing a fellowship, like an abolitionist fellowship.
For which state, if I can ask real quick, like
I'm for DC.
The local DC area.
Mm-hmm.
Go ahead.
And DC's not a state. DC statehood though. Anyway.
Yeah, we need that. We need that. Go ahead.
But I was working as a community organizer for the Working Families Party, but I was also doing a fellowship for the Movement for Black Lives under Andrea Ritchie and Miriam Kaba around abolition and what it looks like to defund the police, what it looks like to reinvest in real community safety. So, it was very weird because on one hand, I would go and have these really radical, beautiful conversations with Andrea Ritchie and Hiram and some of the other organizers that were from around the country, like other organizers that were just like me, new organizers that were just really trying to figure out, what abolition looks like and what we can contribute to abolitionist thought and abolitionist theory. And on the other hand, I'll go back and be in like these Working Families Parties meetings, and Pramila Jayapal was fucking, giving speeches, and people were just praising her, but no one was actually asking her the real questions of, hey, y'all. And this is also like right after like everything happened with Force the Vote and everything as well. So, we're like, hey, like what's up with, with what's going on? Are we going to actually push Medicare for all? What's the plan? Mm-hmm. All of those comments were ignored in the chat, but the questions and comments that were like, oh my God, yes, Pramila, yes, sister, like those ones were boosted. And wow. I started to realize slowly but surely, being at this party, like, y'all don't really have a vision of being outside of the Democratic Party. And I asked everybody and their mama, even the executive director, Maurice Mitchell, if he has any integrity in his body. I asked him to his face.
That's right.
I was like, hey, like, what is the vision here? Like, what is the goal? What are we organizing towards? Are we organizing to be a third party? Mm-hmm. Are we organizing to just support the Democratic Party? Are we organizing to be anti-establishment and push back against the establishment of the Democratic Party while also pushing, like, are we trying to do like the whole, like electoral strategy that Kyle Kalinske and all of them push, like transforming the Democratic Party into some progressive hub for working families? Like, is that the goal? What is the goal? And it was never really made clear. Even like talking to all the community organizers from across the country, talking to some, departments of the department heads, some regional directors, nobody really seemed to have a clear idea, and everybody's description of what their vision of what WFP was different. You had some people there that were really supportive of Biden. Yikes. You had some people there that were communists, like radical Black communists like myself.
Okay. Yeah.
And it's just like, it was like the big tent idea, but without any of the real organization, without any of that real radical, push. And yes, they're good on the identity stuff. And this is why, like, it really pisses me off, because we give the right so much leeway to shit on an identity politics when we continuously bastardize it and weaponize it and not actually go to the core of and the root of what identity politics truly meant, which was a radical concept that meant legislating for Black women and other marginalized identities so that we could destroy all systems of oppression. Not just so we can have Black faces in high places, not just so we can have a symbol of representation that feels good but that doesn't actually bring us anything. No, the purpose of having of identity politics was to know that our goal is to destroy all systems of oppression. So to be in a space like Working Families Party that is supposed to be more leftist, that is supposed to be more progressive, that is supposed to be anti-establishment and pushing against, the Democratic establishment, to see that and to see that they were literally bastardizing the identity politics ideals by literally just having a Black face in a high place, which is Maurice Mitchell, just having all of these, land acknowledgments. They do all different types of, diversity initiatives um, all across the party. Like, there's plenty of queer people, trans people, non-binary folks. There was people that were Latine, that spoke Spanish, and there were people that from all over the world. Like, they did very good with that. They had lots of women leadership, very, very well. Like, that was very, well thought out. But then when you actually talk to these people and you're like, what is your politics? What is your vision for the future? Are you an abolitionist? How can we push real progress forward together? How can we organize for that? Oh, well, Joe Biden is fantastic. Like, what the fuck? Like, no. No, I'm sorry. No. None of that is good enough. And, I'm sure there's a myriad of reasons why I got fired from the Working Families Party. One of them mainly being the fact that the person that was directly over me, whose name I will not say on here because, that's,
Yeah.
I
got you.
We did not get along at all, you know what I'm saying? And the disorganization and the miscommunication that I was feeling from them, I've come to realize that is a problem all over the party. And it is the reason why there are organizers like myself that work on the lower ranks of the party, that do the radical work, that are in the community talking to people every day, saying that this is what the Working Families Party is pushing for. The Working Families Party is pushing for policies that will help the working families. And then we turn around and the leadership of the party are doing things the exact opposite of what we just said to these people. So then it's just like, what are we doing this for? And even looking back, I was doing a fellowship where we were talking about prison abolition, and y'all are supporting people like Joe Biden and Kamala Harris and really openly supporting them, not even critiquing them and saying but it's better than the alternative. No, just rear naked support and admiration. I'm not here to do that.
You know what it reminds me of, Afeni? Yeah, it started. It reminds me of Obama. When people saw Obama, everyone saw what they wanted in them. Like, it was hope and change. So if you was a progressive, oh, look at this guy, he's talking like a progressive. He's probably going to go in there. He's going to get us a public option at the very least, and he's going to help us out and da da da. And then if you was establishment, you kind of saw that end of it, and probably you had the inside track to know how he really was. But it seemed like New Jersey Working Families Party, when I hear about this party, literally the Working Families Party. So they working to get help for the working family. So, and you think, okay, this is a progressive organization. You read their mantra and their mission statement, and okay, and then you go in there and you find out, okay, this is not exactly what I thought it was, right? So, let's move on. So basically, I was hoping that the New Jersey Family Party could be a vehicle, similar to the Green Party. They had the Movement for People's Party, which is stalling right now, unfortunately. And I don't mind having all these different vehicles, but as long as we for change, and then we can all work together, because that's what the establishment does. Believe it or not, I see it. There's a book by Matt Taibbi called Hate Inc. And it talked about how all the establishment, they would have, for example, in 2020, they had Kamala Harris, Amy Klobuchar, Pete Buttigieg, all these establishment candidates that they throw up who their establishment candidates and see, okay, which one got traction. And whoever got traction, even though I was for Pete Buttigieg, but if he fell off, like I'd rather not have Bernie, so I'll take a Amy Klobuchar. They all consolidate behind their establishment person and push them forward, which eventually was Joe Biden. We don't do that, unfortunately, as of right now on the left. So I hopefully eventually we learn from the mistakes. And even in the New York mayor's race, like that was the latest example of a huge progressive mess that the local working family. I'm like, where's the progressive organizations that say, okay, we're going to run at least on this smaller level, we'll run. And I'm trying to think of the different names, but eventually Eric became Eric, what's his last name? The current mayor of New York. He became the mayor, but it was because the progressives weren't aligned. There was Scott Stringer was one of the people they were trying to get behind. Miley, I think there was another name of, and they couldn't figure out somebody to get behind until Scott Stringer had a whole bunch of Me Too issue that caused him to drop out. And by the time they did get behind Wiley, it was like 2 weeks before the camp. It was a mess, and we need to get. My whole point of that little rant was that we need to get organized. But let me ask you this question, because you're also an abolitionist. So I want to ask you straight up, what's your view of when we abolish the police? What's your view of a post-police America?
Yeah, so I would like to say, like, I've never really heard any abolitionists say, like, I know for the absolute fact that I'm right and this is what is going to happen.
Okay.
So I just want to say that this is all imagination, and that's really the crux of what abolition really is imagining, transforming, and seeing what other solutions we can come up with. But me personally, I think that we are truly one of the only societies in the world now that has the type of police presence that we have. I think we are the highest incarcerator of any other country as well.
Mm-hmm.
So you would think that America would be the safest country in the world. Like, we should not have no mass shootings. We should not have no robberies. We shouldn't have nothing. We shouldn't even have no damn traffic tickets out here. Like, that's how safe America should be. If police and prisons actually kept us safe. But that's just simply not the motherfucking case. The reality is, I would really like to talk about the problem first. Like, the reality is that we have seen time and time again that the police are not here to protect us. We just saw last week that the police, when it come down to it, when it come down to them, when they need to be Rambo, they need to do the things that we expect them to do.
Mm-hmm. A good guy with the gun, right?
Where was they at? Outside. Oh, okay. Oh, okay. Arresting parents and tasing people that they're not intimidated by. So that shows you exactly who the police are. They are bullies. They are here to subjugate people to a second-class status. They are here to enforce a racial hierarchy and a financial hierarchy. They are here to protect private property. So in an abolition society, number one, I believe in full and complete abolition, which means abolition of prisons, police, and capitalism. Like, I feel like you can't abolish prisons and police if you're not also willing to completely abolish capitalism as well. And I see that people act like this is so impossible. And it's not that abolition is impossible. It's just that it's unimaginable. We've never lived in a truly liberated society. And, it might take a whole century for us to get to a fully liberated society where, people aren't getting incarcerated, like where there are like zero incarcerations and people that are just, we have a way better system and where we're just way more humane. And we look back at this point in time in history and we're like, wow, what the fuck was wrong with those people? All of them needed mental health care like they probably have in the future, hopefully. So, I think that, if in order for us to have a full and functioning democracy, like, people need to have direct, access to their representatives. Like, if I believe in representative democracy just because, it has been what has worked in so many different societies, whether or not there's like capitalism or not. Direct democracy has always been, you know, a sign of a stable and well-functioning society for the most part.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, you know, I think that that's a really important part, because we should all be able to, you know, express ourselves and see ourselves represented in, you know, our politics. I feel like, to say, you know, I'm not an anarchist. So I go kind of back and forth on what it looks like to have like a representative state, like how localized that should be. Because I think having a nation like this is a little much. I think that America's way too big.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Um,
Okay. Okay.
so, you know, my vision of abolition is definitely, it comes in, it has so many different pieces in it. But if we're talking about abolition of police specifically and what it looks like to create real sustainable safety, it looks like making sure that everybody at the bare minimum has housing and food and water and clothes and shoes on their feet. It looks like people being able to, you know, have access to good education. I don't see us really going back to the fucking dark ages. You know what I'm saying? Like, the technology is all here now. I'm sure in an abolition society where we're not constantly being used for our productivity and what we can provide, or how we can make ourselves profitable to a capitalist system. I'm sure when we don't have to do that, you know, people are still going to innovate. They're still going to work. They're still going to create, because society has bared that out time and time again. It's literally how civilization was created. So all the technology is here now. All the comforts that we are used to are here now. I very highly doubt that people are going to go back, you know, thousands of years to whatever infrastructure existed then. We have enough abundance. We have enough technology. We have enough intellect at this point to expand what we have here in America, this private infrastructure, this comfortability, this indoor plumbing, everything else. We can have that globally. We can have all these things. Everybody can have all these nice things. We have enough. There's more than enough. We produce enough food globally to feed 10 billion people a year. There's more than enough. There's more than enough. And so when we talk about abolition, we're talking about abolition of capitalism, because we no longer want these things to be commodities, especially when they are accessible and possible for everyone. So we should not, like, money should not be a barrier to people having housing that has indoor plumbing and lights in it. Because honestly, all of this shit would work without the capital. Money is just an idea that is backed by confidence. If we all said fuck y'all currency and stop using it, that's literally it's literally that. It's like, all of this shit to me is made up, because if they wanted, when they wanted to fucking create $4 trillion to give to the banks and to these corporations, they did that. And that is the purpose of government, is to create capital in order to make society work. So this deficit and all this bullshit is, it's not real. It's not real. That is the purpose of government. And without capitalism, we wouldn't look at it as a deficit. We look at it as what it costs to run a functioning society. This is what it is. We need these things in order to make, like, life livable. We have medical technology. We have all these things. People have been doctors and healers and all these things. Just because we don't have capitalism, it does not mean that we're all going to start dying from scurvy. Like, that's just not what's going to happen.
That's such a great point. I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
Yeah, that's such a great point, because you know, when typically, logically, I would think, like, if you say, what would a post, you know, police society look like? You know, you would think it would be like, okay, so we're going to have neighborhood watches, and we're going to have a place where, you know, this person is going to run out there. But it's like, you're like, no, you have to, not only abolishing the police doesn't mean necessarily going to replace them with a neighborhood watch necessarily. It means that you're going to take care of people's needs. You're going to take care of all the things that you're going to look at it from the other point of view. What causes a criminal to be a criminal? And okay, let's solve that, right? And also, I saw recently something that causes a lot of violence, and especially a lot of right wing violence, is the fact that we're a nation at war. because we're a nation at war, that war overseas comes back home. When the soldiers come back home and they get back reincorporated into their society, they bring that aggression back home. That's where a lot of white supremacist ways of thinking and this right wing violence also comes from. So if we could be a nation that is for peace instead of going out there drone bombing people and doing all these different things, there's so many ways to solve the crime problem other than having a institution that walks around arresting people.
Absolutely.
So
Almost 70% of the world's serial killers are born in America. Like that right there should be an alarm bell. Okay.
Yeah.
Like we are an unwell society, which is the reason why you can have people like, you know, Peyton and that other man that went into the elementary school last week, who will literally just murder people for absolutely no reason. Even children at this point are not, you know, like clearly we have not seen that they're safe, but more and more we're seeing that people are willing to sacrifice the lives of children in order to keep this system going. People are okay, like at least the people in power are okay with sacrificing the lives of 10 Black people as long as it means that they get to continue this system of white supremacy and racial hierarchy. They are okay with that. And we have to ask ourselves as people, as organizers, as like just everyday citizens, are we okay with this? Do we actually feel safe by what they're telling us should make us feel safe? Do we actually feel, does knowing that we are incinerating, literally disintegrating children in Afghanistan, Iraq, Somalia, Yemen, because those are our bombs that are doing that, Palestine, because that's our money that is funding that. Are we actually safer because we are ruining the lives of these people? Are we actually safer because we are literally erasing generations and bloodlines of human beings that would have existed had we not been the murderous empire that we are? No. Are we safer because of that?
But Afeni, we're creating jobs by all the bombs that we're creating and all the, you know, that's what what's his name? Woltz on CNN, he said that to Rand Paul. What's his name? Wolf, not Richard Wolf.
Wolf Blitzer.
Wolf Blitzer. Thank you so much. It's crazy. It's crazy, Afeni. Go ahead.
Yeah, and that's, you know, honestly, and that's the reason why so many people push back on abolition, is because none of the shit that I just said is profitable. You can't like at the end of the day, as long if you can equalize the playing field, if you can equalize the opportunity, then people won't be able to make billions of dollars. Because we're actually feeding people. People wouldn't be able to, you know, have 10, 12 houses because we're actually housing people, you know? And people would not be able to feel like they are better than anybody else because people actually have the opportunity to get on their level.
Yeah, that's what they're afraid of. Yep.
And at the end of the day, we all have to really sit back and ask ourselves, regardless of whatever the fuck your tax bracket is, people need to ask themselves, how sustainable is this? Because at the end of the day, the police do not keep anybody safe. And the more the wealth is concentrated, the less of the population that will be protected. So before it was just niggas for real. We was the ones, and poor people, and you know, some poor, you know, immigrants from other countries that weren't classified as white yet.
Exactly.
They were being disenfranchised by this system. Before it was just them. Now we're seeing a slow and steady expansion of the people that are being disenfranchised and the people that are less and less protected by this system. And you know, I truly believe that oppression is like a tree. Okay. If you only cut off the branches, all that shit is going to grow back. Same reason why all these white women are so upset right now that, you know, their right to choose is under attack. We have been telling y'all for decades, if you continue to pretend like these other systems of oppression do not matter because they do not affect you, shit will come back to your front door. And here we are. And here we
100%.
are.
Yeah.
So prison abolition, police abolition, all these things, dismantling of the racial hierarchy is directly and intrinsically linked to all of our human rights. And until we see Black people and other marginalized groups as full human beings in this country, which means abolishing all these different systems that uphold the racial hierarchy in this country. Until then, we will continue to see oppression. We will continue to see our rights rolled back. We will continue to see violence on a scale that we cannot simply imagine in this country. And we will slowly turn into the countries that we have terrorized for fucking years, where we cannot walk outside without being like, damn, is something going to drop on our heads today? Damn, is there going to be a shootout down the street from my child's school? We are quickly approaching that point where we are one of the unsafe countries that we keep shitting on.
Yeah.
So,
no, I hear you. I talked to one of my friends and they're like, or even I talked to my wife and they're like, man, we got to get out of this country. We got to go to, name any Canada as much has healthcare and all these other countries. I'm like, no, we have to stay here and fight here. Otherwise, if we go overseas, we might be the victim of American foreign policy. So that's why we got to stay here and fight and try to get a change here, hopefully. So before we go, because man, time goes so fast. I got two last things I definitely want to talk to you about. The first one is, what do you see the perfect leftist representative look like? And then we're going to talk about the mutual aid political party idea that I'm formulating. I would love to get your feedback on it. So let's get to that first question. And before we do that, actually, let me give a quick shout out to much love to the people in the chat. My PJ Holly, PJ Chris is in the chat. Angela Sangster is in the chat. And Miguel H was there early. Much love to everybody in the chat. All right. So Afeni, what does your perfect leftist representative, everything that you would want them to do, and nobody's perfect, but I'm just saying this is a show that we love to talk about that fantasy world, like you just talked about, that don't be mad about or don't worry about going too radical. This is what this show is about. So let us know, what would your perfect leftist representative look like?
Honestly,
someone that's already in office.
Honestly, the perfect leftist representative is somebody who fully understands that they are not going to be there long. And it's because of the thing that they are pushing for. It's because of the language. It's because of how hard they are fighting. They're like, damn, these motherfuckers really might kick me out in 2 years. I might be one of the first congresspeople to just be fully expelled before my fucking term is over. And I'm okay with that because you know what? I spent this time making sure that I educated people on what was right and what is actually just. And what is actually just is making sure that all systems of oppression are destroyed, and not just trying to do marginal changes around the edges. No, taking the real time to talk about the solutions to these problems, taking the time to not only destroy the systems of oppression, but build and create the better world in its place. Somebody who can walk and chew gum at the same time, somebody who's willing to put their body on the line and go out on the front lines and be a part of protest, not just be there to fucking speak, do a speech. No, somebody that's going to march, somebody that's going to, get a little, unchy if it gets like that, like somebody that's willing to actually fight the damn police, if that's what it comes down to. Yeah, because at the end of the day, people are angry, and urgency is the most important thing at this point. And if we are not really starting to think about urgent solutions to these problems, if the people that are representing us are not thinking about the urgency of, there are children that are starving right now. People are not going to be able to know where their next meal comes from tomorrow. And we need to solve that problem before the time is too late.
Yeah.
And like, it's just, I need somebody who's proactive and not reactive. Somebody who's willing to say, like, fuck it, the Democratic Party is not it. Maybe I should pull a Justin Amash and leave. And take and tell people why I'm leaving and educate them, because the thing about the right is like, even if it is the most crazed, depraved, fucking psychotic person in their base, that person still has a voice. And we see it. We've literally seen what happens. And so we need somebody who is going to be listening to those, radical black comments and be like, okay, we might not be able to get all of that, but I can see your vision and I can push that shit forward.
Yeah.
And even if we are shooting for the fucking shooting for the moon, hopefully we can land among the stars and it'll be fucking light years better than where we're at
Than what
right
we have right now. I 100% agree with you. I know that I talked to you earlier, but I want to let the chat know that one of the characteristics that my perfect leftist would have is that they would be on independent left media at least once a week. And, and it's possible because I remember back when I listened to Tom Hartman radio show, I credit him with bringing me to the left. Bernie Sanders used to go on his show once a week. It was called Brunch with Bernie. And he used to just answer for a whole hour, answer questions from just regular people all across the nation. Why can't we have representatives that go on Revolutionary Blackout Network, go on Savvy Sab's show, go on TYT, go on Sam Cedar, any show on this side of the spectrum and say, hey, we're going to, let me report back to you what's going on. These crazy people over here in the Congress, you know what the progressive Pamela Jayapal just told me, like, let us know what's going, bring the people in to Congress with you. And you would be surprised how much support, how much galvanization, how much enthusiasm is going to come from the left, because all we see right now is the AOCs, the Jamal Bowmans, all these leftists who use our money, use our grassroots support to get into office, and then they leave us out in the dust, in the cold. They shut the door. And so, and then we lose enthusiasm with every race or that we see lost, like Nina Turner, or even when we see a Summer League get elected, and I hope she gets in there. But what's going to happen when she turns around and disappoints us? It's like we just keep losing that fire. But if you are that leftist candidate that goes in there and then you come back to us and let us know on the ins and out what's going on, you'll be surprised how much power we can build from that situation. All right. Last question. I want to talk to you about this idea of the mutual aid political party. So I want to give credit to the Revolutionary Blackout Network for introducing me, and Afeni as well for introducing me to mutual aid personally, because I wasn't very familiar with it. I only knew about electoral politics as a change to the system. And you recommended a book by, I believe, David Spade that I'm definitely going to listen to. I looked it up already, and I see they have an audio version of the book, which is how I consume books these days. I'm definitely going to listen to it. And because I'm literally formulating this idea about a mutual aid political party, and I'm going to use that book as a template. And the idea came from, what if you had a campaign, like let's say Afeni was running for office, and she instructed her volunteers to go out there and knock on doors. But instead of just saying, hi, I'm with the Afeni campaign, and I want you to vote for campaigning, I want you to donate, I want you to volunteer. The volunteers will go out there, knock on doors and say, hi, I'm with the Afeni campaign. How can I help you right now? Do you need any help whatsoever? Doesn't matter what it is, too big or too small. I can't promise that we can make it happen. If you have cancer, I don't know if we get paid for, chemo, and we'll see what we can do. Maybe we can put you in contact with somebody. And, all that concept of you're a human being. You're not just a Democrat. You're not a Republican. We're not asking you if you're a Democrat or Republican or an independent. You're a human being, and you have needs. And we want to see if we can help you out with that. And now you're building camaraderie amongst your community. And you can also ask, hey, are you a doctor or are you a lawyer that you can help give a service for free pro bono to your neighbor? Or can we write you down on a list that we can call you if somebody needs a lawyer or a doctor, that even a dentist, that you could check out somebody's teeth and let them know, okay, you have to really go to, anything. And imagine what a mutual aid political party can do when you're building grassroots support. And the idea is that progressives have to run differently. We can't raise more money than the establishment candidate. We might not be able to get all the TV ads that the establishment can get. But if we can have a grassroots knock on every door in a district, that'll be the goal. you can overcome the TV, because they could be watching the TV ad and say, well, why are they talking about Afeni that way? I know Afeni and her organization, they helped me cut my lawn last week. They helped me find a dentist. So I'm not going to listen to this. I'm going to vote for Afeni because I know who she is and I know what her organization does. So anyway, that's the general idea still being formulated. And I would love, if you have any feedback or any ideas to give to us, I would love to. I can't promise we can implement it, but I would love to get ideas from anybody, even if you're in the chat. If you have any ideas for this mutual aid party, but go ahead, Afeni.
Absolutely. So like, we actually, our campaign, we did mutual aid around like Christmas time, and I think we do something for Thanksgiving. I'm trying to remember. Child, so much shit has happened, but I know we definitely did something for Christmas time. We did like a toy drive. We made sure that like, kids that were underprivileged in our district had toys, and we gave out quite a bit. So that is a really important strategy. Mutual aid is about meeting people's material needs, so that way you can bring them into movement, so you can educate them, and so that you can dispel the individual shame of poverty, because poverty is not an individual choice. It is a policy choice that is made on our collective behalf by people that will never fucking experience poverty ever in their lives. So, it's really important that we do that work. And, that's a lot. It's very close to what, the Black Panther Party was doing. They didn't turn to electoral politics until a little later in the formation, but they did run some local candidates, because it's really important that people understand that we need policy that's actually going to change our lives, and that's actually going to transform this thing. I'm not even really necessarily like, I go back and forth on electoral politics and whether or not it's going to work, but something that I think is a really important idea that any third party should be pushing for is a constitutional convention. We need a constitutional convention. We need to rewrite this whole motherfucking thing, because that constitution that was written for rich white men by rich white men. So slave owning pedophilic white men at that. But anyway, so it's really important that, any party that we do have, like, if we're doing that radical work, that we're also pushing for radical solutions, and we're talking about, real transformation, not marginal reformation, but real transformation in which, like, we don't have to continue to do the type of mutual aid that you would be doing, because mutual aid and any other form of building dual power, all of that stuff is just the bridge to the better society. While we're building and creating and dismantling, while we're building and creating our new society and dismantling the systems of oppression, while we're doing those things, that bridge of mutual aid, making sure that our community is taken care of, that bridge of, creating financial institutions to make sure that people have, whatever resources they need, whatever capital they need to continue, doing this work, making sure that we have alternative medical care, to make sure that people are healthy while they're doing this work, making sure that we have, that mental health care, so making sure that people are unpacking the trauma of being under an oppressed system, because so much of what our new society looks like is based in healing. We have to heal, because we are truly and deeply broken society. We are mentally unwell. And so focusing in on all of that as we are moving into the better society is how we make sure that our safety is sustainable on the other side. That we make sure that we don't roll back into the type of society that we're in right now. And all that work is really important. And as important as it is to, try to run candidates, I feel like, just based on the historical uh, context, that any party that resembles anything like that will present a very real danger to the nucleus of this country, which is, the white supremacist racial hierarchy, that has a grip on the financial and the war power, which will make you an enemy of this state. Like that's just really what it is. And so people that participate in that have to be fully ready for that, and they also have to be able to organize, and combat that in the messaging, that they give, while as we talk to the community about what it looks like to take power back into our own hands, in a country of this size. Um, but yeah, I definitely think it's a great idea. I think that, you know, people aren't politically engaged right now, mainly because, number one, voting is not a national holiday, and anybody that's working class or working poor, I don't have time to go stand in a line for 8 hours to go vote. There is no ranked choice voting in this country. So
Yep.
we're still dealing with the duopoly. We need ranked choice voting. We need to make sure that people of any party, of any type of party, whether left or right, has representation of some sort. We need those things, and we need to be able to hold our representatives accountable.
Accountable.
And accountability isn't just about, berating people and talking shit about people and attacking their character. No, accountability comes from love,
Yeah.
because we love our community, we love ourselves, and we love you. So that's the reason why we're asking you to hold yourself accountable to your principles, even when it's not easy to do so, because our lives depend on it. Our survival depends on it. Our creation of this new society depends on your commitment to our principles and to the actions that it's going to take in order to build that society. Because, I tweeted this the other day, like, real action is not a reaction, but it is all about creation. So when we're asking these people to take these real actions, it's because that is the only way. That is the only way we get to that better society. It's the only way we get to that better world. So, it's really frustrating, because what you're saying is it's a really amazing idea. And I really feel like if people are willing to put their egos to the side and put their honestly, they're hurt, because a lot of people are very hurt and disappointed by what happened. But that needs to be put to the side for real action. And I'm not sitting up here and telling anybody that they need to fucking vote for anyone. Not at all. If you don't want to vote for people, that's fine. But we need to start organizing in a real tangible way. We need to start having these conversations about what it looks like to, now, number one, expand our communication across the country, to connect some of these movements that are happening. We have so many striking workers. We have unionizing happening all over the country, but yet we don't have anything. We don't have any real infrastructure to talk about it, a general strike. Why not? There are plenty of workers that are already there. People are already upset with their wages. People see what's happening with inflation, and people say that I hear people say this all the time. People are aware of the fact that while prices are going up, while the cost of housing is going up, wages are not. And this is the perfect time, the perfect political opportunity to get a general strike going in this country that is sustainable, that is possible, because it is happening already. It is just now the job of organizers and the job of people that have these platforms to start to make those connections and to start to talk about, okay, so bang, we have this strike happening here, this strike happening here, this strike happening here. Here are the things that we need in place in order to expand and connect these strikes, to make it so that we put a real squeeze on this country and on the nucleus of the financial power of this country.
Yeah.
We have to do that if we're going to get any real change. And we have to hold our leaders in this movement accountable to that vision in order for our lives to get better. So, I love the idea of a mutual aid party. And I also love the idea of making sure that while we're building these things, while we're building these systems, that we're being supportive of each other while we do it, that we're being supportive of the bigger vision of complete and total abolition. of complete and total eradication of oppression. We can't completely eradicate harm. Harm is, inevitable in any society, but reducing harm as much as we possibly can should be the goal. And that should be what we have in our, like, that should be our tunnel vision, literally, for the next however many years until we make it happen. And the thing is, with the crazy, I feel like the craziest part about it is it probably would not take as long as everybody's making it out to seem if we actually connected and did the real radical work to make this thing happen. Because I don't know how, like, it took what? The Black Panthers a decade to transform the system to where we're giving out free breakfast to every child in America. It took them a decade to do that. And that was a very small minority of people. Imagine if we had a real Black-led, working class, revolution, a political revolution, an ideological revolution, of where we were talking about what it looks like to provide free healthcare for everybody. And we were talking about all the different steps that it takes to get there and the timeline. And we're going to just start knocking that shit out. And anybody that gets out of line, get the fuck out. You got to go. You know what I'm saying?
I hear you.
Like, move, get out of the way. Get out of the way. Like, but I don't even really feel like we've gotten to that point of organization to hold each other accountable at that point. So, one thing that, I really wanted to make sure that I said, because, it's you, is that I'm just highly, 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 highly disappointed in a majority of the, leftists that have the bigger platforms, that have the resources, that have the access to these people. I'm highly disappointed in them because at the end of the day, people's lives are in danger. I'm a Black queer woman in America. My life is under attack in every sense of in every sense, truly, from every direction, whether it's my right to choose as a woman, whether it's my right to just be Black and exist and be safe, after we saw the Buffalo shooting, whether it's the right to be myself and to express my queerness and to love the person that I love. You know what I'm saying? All of those things are under attack. And while y'all are attacking myself and other activists that are trying to do the real radical work to save ourselves, while you're attacking us, we are dying. People like us that look like us are dying. Kids that are in Florida right now that are literally being told that their existence is illegal.
Yeah.
They are dying because, illegal trans kids are just going to be dead trans kids. And that's just the reality of the situation. So we are in a moment of urgency where we need all of you to get on board with real action, not reaction, but real action. Because I'm so tired of seeing people that I admired and that helped me get to this point literally just shit on any real action that is going to save my life and the life of other people that look like me.
Yeah.
I'm very much tired of that. And I just really want everybody, again, like, to look within themselves, look around and ask yourself if this is sustainable. And if the answer is no, then what are you doing to transform it? What is your role in the transformation of this unsustainable society that we live in?
100%. Yeah, go ahead. Finish your thought. You good?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So, I've said this before. I think to Bree in on her early call-ins that I would love to see all of our left media find some way to collaborate. And if it's not even, it doesn't have to be in public, but even if it's behind the scenes where everybody gets on a Zoom call and they say, all right, guys, what is our goal for this year? What is our goal for the next 6 months, maybe for this quarter? Do we have an event that we want to push? I think maybe, and I'm not sure if this is what you was one of the things you were referring to, was like the March for Medicare for All, which I went to the one in my New Jersey, and the one closer to me, and how certain leftists poo-pooed the March for Medicare for All, as they tried to build something from the grassroots. And that was definitely disappointing to see when some of our bigger personalities on the left, and with the big audience poo-pooed it. But it's good to hear that I believe they're coming out with another action very soon. And
Mhm.
I'm hoping that we're going to see, hopefully they learn from that. And one of the things that I was listening to a couple of David Spade YouTube interviews, and man, this guy's a great, awesome guy. And one of the things that I heard, and I might clip it too and clip it out, was why there's that type of inaction. And it's because they're like afraid that it might not work, or maybe it's not going to be big. Because I know a March for Medicare for All, like in DC, maybe it had only 20 people that came to that march. Who
That's not true.
cares?
That's
Oh,
not true.
I just threw out a number, but like, let's say they are poo-pooing it because it's small, right?
Yeah.
Who cares? We got to start. We start off small, and next time we get a little bigger. And then next time we get a little bigger, and we have to do something, right? But thank you, Afeni, so much for coming on the channel. I appreciate you having this conversation. This is what we need. We need to have more of these conversations. I'm so happy that we have calling is a medium that I saw you on with Brianna Joy Gray and Nick Cruz. That is a great uh medium where we can come together and have conversation, and is a lot less toxic. I mentioned this to Savvy Savs the other day. It's a lot less toxic than Twitter, where it's
Mhm.
more of a fighting. You're trying to get clicks and you're trying to get views and likes. Where these calling is more about having conversation, is more about collaborating, and then you coming on going on shows is more about having these conversations. You're less likely to talk bad about somebody when you're face to face with them, or when you're on a
Absolutely.
call with them. You know what I'm saying? So this is how we have make progress. This is how we work together. And thank you for your feedback. And I look forward to working with you more. And don't leave. I'm gonna end the show, and then we're gonna end off privately. But I just want to give one last quick shout out to the people in the chat. Thank you for coming through live. Holly Horn, Miguel H, Angela Sangster, PJ Chris. I know you were in there. And thank you so much, everybody, for coming on. I hope you enjoyed this stream. Have a good morning or rest of your day.